will be arriving
She's up
shortly.
here.
So there she is. Oh, good. So everyone is here. Welcome. So I would like to call the meeting to order of the South Burlington City Council of Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. And our first
Tom,
item is the agenda review. Are we being taped yet?
Oops, thanks.
Well, I meant more about town meeting, because usually they
This
say
conference will now be recorded.
now be recorded. Okay. So are there any additions, deletions, or changes in order of the agenda items tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to comments and questions from the public not related to the agenda. Are there any? We have one caller, two non-members. Anyone have anything? No? Okay.
I want to speak on the Burton issue, but I'm assuming that, I can't see the agenda because I'm just on a phone, but I'm assuming that
Okay.
you'll let me know when it's appropriate.
Okay, which issue was that?
The proposed Burton venue.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good enough. I'll let you know. I
Thank
always
you.
announce what item, so.
We
Go
don't
on.
have an item on that, on the agenda.
Pardon me?
We don't have an item on that on the agenda, do we?
no,
So if
No,
she's
but-
gonna,
Proposed concert venue.
she should speak on it now, probably.
Okay, it's not on the agenda to speak on Burton, so if you have
Well,
a
no, on
comment.
I'm sorry, on the Act 250.
Oh, well, Megan's going to mention that in her remarks. So she'll be talking about her letter, and then if you wanted to chime in, then you can, okay? I think that would make more
Okay,
sense.
I have something I wrote that I just wanted to have an opportunity to read,
Okay,
and
that's
I was
fine.
told to do it in the public comments, but I can't see the agenda, unfortunately.
Okay.
You could
Well,
do it
it
now,
isn't-
Helen.
Well, you can do
I
it
can do
now,
it
because
now.
it's not on the agenda. So why don't you read your comments?
Okay, I appreciate it. My name is Joni Avrutik, and I want to comment on the proposed concert venue at the Burton site on Queen City Park Road, which abuts South Burlington. And I want to thank you for participating in the Act 250 pre-hearing conference last week. And I hope that the City of South Burlington will continue to actively participate in the development process to make this a win-win for neighbors and South Burlington, as well as for Burton Corporation. I'm becoming aware of the potential future financial impacts of this venue that could happen for all South Burlington taxpayers. I've been thinking about the possible ongoing long-term expenses that South Burlington could incur on municipal services and sidewalk upgrades. I know that Burlington has reduced its police force by 30% to the point of stating that they would cease coverage for a night shift. The Burlington and South Burlington police force are critical to us for safety and keeping noise and traffic problems to a minimum. I suspect it will be South Burlington Police Force who will be called to Red Rocks Park events or to the Queen City Park related late night issues, such as traffic situations, noise, complaints, parking problems, and whatever else might happen. In addition, there's an unsafe lack of sidewalk on the east side of the one-lane bridge on Queen City Park Road. I wonder who will pay for this infrastructure upgrade. Shouldn't that be shouldn't that be Burton? Or will it be the taxpayers of South Burlington paying for upgrades needed due to Burton Corporation's choice to develop? I want the City Council to continue to actively participate and address these issues and the impacts of the potential development now, while we are able to still have a voice. Once the venue is here, we can't go back and tweak the smaller details that we may wish we have had. Thank you. I appreciate being heard.
Oh, you're very welcome. And will you please tell me your name again?
Yes, it's Joni Avrutik.
How do you spell Avrutik?
It's A, V as in vegetable,
Mhm.
R, U, T as in tango, I, C, K.
Okay, you've done that before. Okay.
And I'm a
Thank you.
Joni for the record.
Oh, all right. Well, Sue is most appreciative. She takes our minutes. Okay, thank you very much, Joni.
Thank you.
On to the consent agenda. We have two items, disbursements and approving the minutes of December 21st and January 4th. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
And a second?
Second.
And so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, let me call the roll. Tim Barrett.
Aye.
Megan Emery,
Aye.
Tom Chittenden,
Aye.
David Kaufman,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye, so we approve that 5-0. Item 4, consider and possibly approve a council resolution condemning the violence in the United States Capitol building on January 6, 2021. So Megan has worked on this, so would you like to present this? And Tim indicated that he had some additional language potentially. You're muted, Tim.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, I just had just a couple of little things. This is great. I just wanted to add two more things.
Okay, so do you want to quickly take it through or explain the derivation
Well,
of this? And
I just want some verbiage that
Oh.
delineates the fact that ransacking is one thing, but destruction and theft of federal property. If we could add that, that would be nice. I'm not,
Okay.
I don't have to have it, but I just wanted to add in all the things that were done. Destruction and theft of federal property.
So which whereas is that? Oh, that's
Where it
the
says
second
where it says
whereas, right?
Ransacking. If it doesn't make it
Okay.
too long,
No,
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
you guys see this? I'm sharing it on my screen. Can you see it?
we don't see.
No.
no,
Uh,
I have it on my iPad, so.
I'm
So
gonna
somewhere
open
in there after ransacking offices, destroying federal property.
Destroying and stealing federal property would be good.
Okay,
That's all.
is that the only change?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
That's okay with me.
It's not redundant is it anywhere to anything else?
I don't think so,
Because ransacking is like, just tossing things around and
right, which is what they did, yeah, but we don't have anything else about destruction.
So we said public property. You said public property, Tim?
federal.
Yeah.
federal.
Federal property. That's what I had understood first. Okay.
The definition of ransack is to go hurriedly through a place, stealing things and causing damage.
Might already be. This language came from the, what was passed in the State House.
Okay. Well, add theft in there because they stole that laptop and some other stuff and just,
So stealing
Okay.
federal property, since
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
ing verbs throughout. Okay.
Okay,
Yep, I got that.
I'm
Okay.
okay with saying destroying in case someone doesn't know the total definition of ransacking.
well, that's
I mean,
good. Just say destruction and theft and destruction of federal property. That's good. I like that.
Okay,
I'm going to put destroying and stealing because we have the ing verbs throughout there, right? Attacking,
okay.
ransacking,
Okay.
destroying and stealing federal property. I'm happy to have.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as Megan said, this was structured after the resolutions that both the House and the Senate passed, correct? Correct, Tom? Tom? Yeah. So, and she and I felt that it was important to let the public as well as the leadership know that we were as disturbed and bothered by this as everyone else. And so we changed it a little bit because it was after the vote to, what do you call it? Get rid of Trump.
Impeach?
And, yeah, and so we added that we would send the resolution to the leadership in the Senate and the House and our congressional delegation, because it's in their hands now, whether impeachment goes forward in the Senate or not.
Yeah, I think the most critical aspect of the impeachment, I don't know if that will go through, but there's also the 14th Amendment, Section 3, which is another means. It was done following the Civil War, which would prevent public officials that have, sworn to uphold the Constitution and the government of the United States, that they acted to, in fact, overturn the government through encouragement. And, it was, I think, pretty clear that people took it upon themselves to act on the president's words or on their representative words. It's been captured through video. It's been put into court proceedings now that people are being charged, and they are claiming to have acted at their president's behest. So I think that is important for officials such as we are, who take the oath seriously, to make it clear that that oath means something, and that we understand its importance, and it's essential that we respect that oath. Otherwise, it truly would be anarchy, and we would no longer be the United States as we know it.
Tim, you're muted. We
Can
can't
we
hear
add two
you.
more things for the punishment, which would be the denial of security reports, security briefings to the to him, as well as a denial of any federal pension that would be due to him. I mean, I'd like to have him lose his pension and also not get any security briefings. I mean, I can't deny him the Secret Service, because that's a bad thing to deny somebody that, but money and information, and then access to transportation, right? I don't know if former presidents have access to military aircraft for their personal use. Is that, I don't know. Does anybody know?
I don't know. I mean, I do know that they have some paid staff, and they get money for an office somewhere.
We could simply say financial gain. They could no longer receive any financial. There was something about that. I can't drag it up now. It would take too long. But there was something. There is language in the Constitution that talks about being denied financial gain.
Well, maybe we could just say in the second to the last resolved, be barred from national or state office as
Denied a federal pension and be denied security briefings, any security briefings.
But we don't know if we're 100% accurate on saying those things.
I know it, but I just,
Well, I was trying to look for some words that would, in general, say, and other like
remunerations,
traditional,
compensation.
yeah, I guess support of former presidents or something, and that, because I think the Congress is talking about that, but whether they can do it or not, I don't know. And I don't know all the things they can do.
Yeah.
So if we start enumerating them.
Yeah.
Can you scroll down a little bit there, Megan?
That's That's Kevin.
Kevin, whoever's got that? Yeah, that's a little better, thanks.
No profit. It says, yeah, shall not profit. Well, I don't know. That's not quite what you're talking about either.
No,
But that's
so,
okay. Yeah, I'm not going to demand this. I'm mad as hell and don't want to take it anymore. And I just
uh-huh.
would rather that anything that he can be removed from his possession or future possession be done, right? But, this is fine.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we've made our point, and if we can't be 100% sure we're accurate in the wording we might use, we really shouldn't put it in, although I totally agree.
And
Well,
the fact
I
that we're
think.
going to pass this resolution means it's going to happen, right?
Sure.
Yeah, right. You
Hey, I
bet.
think you need
But the
to,
other thing is, it would be good to have it timely so they get it
Yeah, we got the power.
ASAP. So they know that we support these actions, not after the fact that they couldn't get anywhere.
Helen, do you want to change that last resolved clause? Since this is modeled after what the legislature did, but we can't really direct the Secretary of State to do something.
Oh, we can't. Oh,
Yeah.
so
no, we
you,
can't.
so
Requested-
you,
That,
You should restate that, be it further resolved that this resolution be sent.
a copy of this resolution. We can just say
To-
that. I think we could just take out the Secretary of State be directed to, and just say that, through send, and just say that a copy of this resolution be sent to, or,
that
Yeah.
sounds good.
I think so.
okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
I was-
That was a good catch. Okay, so we have that correction, and then the other several words we added earlier in the whereases to better define ransacking offices. Are there any other changes or comments people would make? Okay. All right, so are you ready? Sue, do you have those changes? I think.
And I can send this to Kevin shortly.
Can you, yeah, Megan, if you could update the resolution with the new language and send it to me. This is
Right now.
probably one of those things that you should all sign, I suppose, or at least one of you.
Well, you have my signature on record or something. You could use that.
Yeah,
Or,
we'll see.
or I can come in and sign it if there's that capability. I don't know.
Yeah, we could do that if you'd be willing to do that, Helen.
Or you could have someone sign for each of us and just initial it. I don't care.
Okay,
However we want to do that. Okay.
we'll figure it
So
out.
are we ready for the vote?
Yep.
Okay, let me just call a roll. Megan Emery,
Aye.
Thomas Chittenden,
Aye.
David Kaufman,
Aye.
Tim Barrett.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so we have adopted the resolution condemning the storming of the Capitol, among other things. 5-0, great. All right, we have a public meeting that starts in 9 minutes, but we could probably, if everyone is okay with this, go down to item 6, announcements and the city manager's report. Megan, how much time do you need, Megan, with your letter? And you want to just update us on the Burton issue? You're silenced.
You did, yeah. I'm happy to do that now. So this
Okay.
this is under the item 10, the report from Councilors on Committee Assignments.
Oh, no, this was announcements number 6.
Oh,
Because it wasn't really a committee. We just asked you to
Okay.
show up.
true. Okay. So I attended the pre-hearing site visit as you requested, and was asked there by Aaron Brondike to attend the pre-hearing itself. And when I was responding to him, it seemed clear to me that it would be positive if I were to do that. So I did. And I expected just to observe, but then the chair called on me. And so I again felt called upon to respond. And the chair was specifically asking for criteria that our concerns fell under. And I had heard people addressing them prior to the chair calling on me. So I had looked at the criteria up and I had responded to the best of my ability. And afterward, I realized, is it possible for noise to somehow be considered, because noise was not among the criteria? And Colin and I had a little bit of exchange, and Colin said, yeah, it was under air pollution, which I hadn't considered. So I wrote to Aaron and I said, I'm concerned I didn't address this, because this was the moment where people really stipulated the concerns that the commission was going to consider. And when called upon, Colin hadn't developed, hadn't built on what I had said either. And so I contacted Aaron, and he told me I had to respond with a memo to all of the parties. And another response that I made to Aaron was, when I was talking about criterion 10 about the plans, I was cut off by someone at Burton. And I felt that it was important for me to perhaps not leave it at that. So I thought it would be helpful to the commission to have more information on that. And Aaron, again, indicated that a memo would be in order. And so rather than ask our attorney to write this and for us to pay him to do so, since he will be observing for us, I was willing to do it myself. Aaron said it certainly could be written by me. And so I did that with Helen's agreement. And I thought it was helpful. This is something that the CCRPC has sent. Other people have sent just comments, providing the commission, I think, with a document, really indicating what specifically we want the commission to look at. And so, of course, before sending it, and this falls very nicely with our meeting schedule, I wanted to show it to all of you and make sure that this represents, your ideas on the matter.
Okay, well, thank you. Any thoughts, anyone on the council?
Can you scroll down? I can only see down to criterion 5 in the sentence below. Or
And
Kevin,
I did send it to you through the city email too.
Oh, just today or?
Just this afternoon, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. All right. So what's the action you want? You want us to read this and then give our endorsement of the letter?
Yeah, so that to make sure that it reflects what the council agrees are pertinent issues to raise with during the Act 250 process.
Okay.
Almost all of them, I think, are included in the letter that we originally sent. The one that we didn't, right, Megan, is the noise and the water pollution, or
The water pollution was the
potential
one.
contamination.
That was the one thing that came up since we wrote our letter. We have not taken the time to investigate it. I mean, we have no engineering reports. So all I said was that this is a new issue, and that, of course, we will be, following that discussion, since our residents' well-being is, of course, of our concern. So that's what I wrote.
Why were you interrupted by Burton, Megan?
How can I explain for them? I don't know. I mean,
No, you said.
Weren't you talking about the access or the road and who owns it?
No, I was talking about the plans, criterion number 10.
Oh,
You mean, what did Burton say?
So you're saying that they interrupted you? Did they stop you from proceeding in your delivery, or?
Well, I didn't expect to be called on to begin with, so
Okay.
I was trying to be, you know, I hadn't prepared,
Yeah.
and so when I was talking about how the Plan BTV South End conflicted with this amendment, and that Councilor Joan Shannon had said that infill housing would be more appropriate, that is when I believe it was Justin Worthley broke in and housing's not allowed there at all. And the council chair said, this is not the time for, people to be challenged. We're just taking testimony. And,
Okay.
and since I hadn't prepared, any kind of, real argument, I wasn't going to pursue it further.
Sure.
So orally. And I knew that Colin was likely going to be called later on. Then the fact that I was present was challenged. And Colin did say that I was there representing the South Burlington City Council, as had been agreed upon by the councilors. So
Okay.
there we go.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
I have one, Shirley.
Yeah.
So I thank you for putting it together, Councilor Emery. I glanced at it since it came in this afternoon, and I'm reading it now. I don't see anything I disagree with. I would just say I'm hesitant to cast a formal vote on it tonight because it wasn't part of the agenda.
No vote.
I just want to sentiment.
No vote.
I support it, and it makes sense. And thank you for putting so much time into it.
Okay. Well, I think that was
That's all
our point, was to just get kind of an agreement that, yeah, this pretty much reflects everything we've talked about, and that it was an okay to send in this memo. Certainly Colin agreed with that process. Okay. Well, good. We're got 1 minute. So why don't we get ready to move back to item 5, and then we'll finish up with any other reports or comments from councilors from whatever we did this week. So let's see. Item 5 is a public hearing on a proposal to bring the question to the voters at the South Burlington Annual Meeting on March 2nd, 2021, of authorizing the city to incur debt under the Tax Increment Financing Program to finance the completion of the connection of Garden Street to Dorset Street on the west and Garden Street to Midas Drive on the north, as well as potential additional improvements at the White Street, Williston Road intersection and the Heinsberg Road, Williston Road intersection. And so I would like to open the public meeting. So may I have a motion to open the meeting?
So moved.
And a second? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, so we have opened this public hearing. And I believe Ilana's on deck for SB City. So are you going to share the proposals, and then we'll hear from the public if there are any comments?
Ilona, I made you a presenter, if you're going to present.
There we go. So I just want to make sure I'm not sharing the right one. Sorry, a moment.
So the purpose of this is to just go through what we're asking the public, and then to elicit any comments or questions that the public may have, or additional questions by council members. And then we'll vote on putting it on the ballot.
So apologies. Good evening. For the record, my name's Ilona Blanchard, and I'm pleased to be presenting information about the Garden Street project for consideration. So this project has been around for quite a while. It's on the official map, and it's a connection between Dorset Street and Williston Road. It also includes certain improvements on Williston Road. For the purposes of the ballot item, the whole project is referenced, but the amount of money that is up for approval is anticipated to cover two portions, and I'll go into those portions. The ballot question also addresses related costs, and related costs are costs within the TIF district that are incurred in administering the TIF district. So that might be legal audits. We're required to audit the TIF district each year, and then the state will come in and audit the TIF district 3 times during the life of the overall district. So that's over the 20-year life of the TIF district, beginning in 2017. The debt authorization that is being requested is for $4,002,550, which includes both the 2 segments of roadway and related costs. And then any debt that's authorized at a future date. So once the voters authorize it, the debt would still need to go to the council in order to be issued as a bond. And that would be for the roadway. The related costs are intended to be paid directly out of tax increment financing district increment, which is revenues that come directly from the TIF district and not be issued as debt. And then the debt is intended to be financed with TIF district financing. Note, however, that this is would be issued against the full faith and credit of the city, in addition to against the tax increment financing district, so that if the revenues are not available from the TIF district, then the city would still be required to service the debt. So this is an overview of the project. And so as you can see, it's quite an extensive project. Segment B is under construction currently by South Burlington City Center LLC as part of the Snyder-Braverman development project. And so this question is on funding for A and C, so between Trader Joe's and Healthy Living, and between the South Burlington City Center LLC property and White Street. So that's a full reconstruction or full depth construction of a roadway between the end that's already constructed and Midas Drive. And then on Midas Drive and Dorset Street, it includes curb work and improvements to pedestrian bicycle facilities, as well as some utilities. And you can see there's a bit of a closer up, which shows some of the improvements, a shared use path in front of Healthy Living, which does not have one now. As Councilor Barrett mentioned at the other meeting, we will make the radius at that corner less tight, so that hopefully even I in my little tiny car will not drive over it anymore. And then the connection, this shows generally there's a lot of turns in this area, so there's minimal parking, but that the bicycle facility and the sidewalk that is already established in front of the Garden Street apartments would continue through this section, as well as some stormwater treatment. So attached to this is a necessity resolution, and that's required to put the question onto the ballot. So this would need to be approved by the City Council. And then this has two attachments, a draft ballot, or the ballot, I'm sorry, the warning, and the article for the official ballot. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Will there be an express tunnel to Al's Fries from somewhere?
No, that's the bicycle lane.
Oh,
From my house, Tim, from my house.
Right. Does this include, remind me, this does not include any additional work over the wetlands to connect that bridge to the park? That's a different, okay.
Yes, that would That would
Okay.
need to go under a different question.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions or comments by counselors? Okay, I think
No,
it's always,
I think it reads very well. I think we're good.
I think it's always important to emphasize for the public that while agreeing to $4,02,550 is a lot of money, the anticipation and the design of the TIF process created by the state is to allow these kinds of infrastructures that improve a city are paid for through the taxes that are generated over a period of time. And eventually they then become part of the tax base for the city. But during the TIF years, that's what pays for this. So it doesn't require, other than we have a reserve fund to assist with cash flow for these things, it doesn't increase the tax rate at all unless for some wild reason nothing else gets built. But we have a lot of information that Ilana's put together projecting, and we certainly have had conversations and understandings from South Burlington Realty and their partners, Snyder Braverman, that there are a number of additional buildings that plan to be built that will provide the incremental tax money to fund this kind of project. Tom? Okay.
I think you said this, Chair, really, but one thing that I'm going to emphasize whenever somebody asks me about this is that unlike the library community center, this is 100% TIF financeable. That's just an important distinction. So assuming the development occurs, which we have every reason to believe it will, based on the forecast Ilona has given, this will not increase the taxes for South Burlington residents because of the TIF 100% financing opportunity.
Okay. All right. Are any other comments, or are there questions from the public? We have a number of public members. No comments or questions? I hope y'all are going to vote yes. All right. Any other statements or comments by the council? Ilona, do you want to add anything, or have we? We'll be getting lots of information out in the newspaper and in the newsletter that the city puts out to explain this more fully. We did that the first 2 times, and I think it's always good to remind the public how this process works, because it's a little different than other bonds, if you will, that we often put before the voter. Ilona, anything else to add?
We will be putting together a public notice that will be available on the website and in several public locations. I believe that we'll also hold a public hearing, an additional public hearing, provide additional information if people would like it.
Okay. Well, great. So we need to do 2 things. We need to vote on the necessity resolution, and then which incorporates the verbiage to go on the ballot, and then, but then we also have to vote on that, right? The actual. Yeah. Okay.
I think the ballot, Helen, I think the ballot question is number 9 on your agenda.
Oh, okay.
So you need to close this hearing and then
Right,
do the
right.
necessity resolution, I think.
Okay, we shall do that. So if there are no further comments, I'll entertain a motion to go out of or end the public hearing.
I will move that.
And a
Second.
second? Okay, and Megan seconded. So all in favor? Raise your hand. Okay. All in favor, 5-0. So we were out of the public session, so we now I would entertain a proposal to adopt the resolution.
I'll move that
The
we adopt the
necessity
necessity resolution for incurring bonded debt for Garden Street and Williston Road improvements in the city center tax increment financing district.
Okay, in a second?
Second.
Was seconded by Tim. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the roll on this. So David Kaufman,
Aye.
Tim Barrett,
Aye.
Megan Emery,
Aye.
Thomas Chittenden,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye, so that passes 5-0. So we'll get back to actually the ballot later on in the agenda. So let's continue with item 6, if there were any announcements. Any other announcements that people, things they did? And I have 2 committee meetings, but I'll do that later. Tim?
I attended a pension advisory board meeting tonight, and I brought my personal SCI advisor to the meeting tonight to present about that.
Okay.
You're starting off well for Tim. He's in a good mood.
Yeah. Tom, any highlights from the Senate? You've been busy doing anything for South Burlington up there?
So happy to give a report. I've been assigned since we last met to transportation and education. I asked for transportation and I'm happy to be on education, but I will say it's intimidating. And I also was very excited to be appointed to the Vermont State Infrastructure Bank. So I'm looking into, and we had a good, somewhat related to South Burlington. Treasurer Pierce was before the Education Committee, and we were talking about bonding, bond banks, and access to capital that we used to do to lower the cost of borrowing from municipalities, looking at Burlington High School and also South Burlington when it comes to all the upgrades that have been delayed. So there seems to be an openness to doing what we used to do, which might make it easier or cheaper for at least schools to access state bonding resources to provide for the updates that we need. I don't know what else to offer. Happy to answer questions or to take any concerns that you all have back to my service.
No, that's fine.
I have a question.
Tim?
So Tom, what kind of a stipend do you get now? You don't have to travel, and you don't have any food to get, and you don't have any lodging. So what do you get?
So if any of you want to follow my Facebook campaign page, I actually did a post on Friday and I outlined this. So this is one of the points because it's been an issue in the past for some of my predecessors. They are doing a pandemic specific approved stipend, which is now going to be taxable, but it's $75 a day. But I will say this, when I add up everything I'm spending and using, and Comcast just changed my data plan. So now it's capped. It's no longer unlimited data. And I've already used up this entire month. So my point is, on my post, I lay out all the costs I'm incurring by working entirely from home. So I hope the taxpayers are okay with this pandemic-specific stipend that I understand just about all the other senators are also taking. So I'm not out of step with the norm. Does that answer your question, Tim?
Oh, he gets a salary too, on top of that.
I do. So I think the salary, I'll get you my paycheck. I just came, so I'll send you.
Yeah. And since you are less than 50 miles from, I don't know, Montpelier, everything you get is taxed. Other legislators get a break.
But I swear I did not do this for the money. It's,
You couldn't possibly do it for the money. Okay, David, do you have any comment? Or were you out and about at all? Probably not. Huh?
I have not been out and about at all. My
Well-
next out and about will be when they let me know I can get a vaccine.
Okay. Zoom in.
Quick
Okay.
question for Dave.
Yeah,
How is the construction going at Cairns?
we're on final, I mean, I walked past it last week. It looks fabulous. I think it's close. It's all internal final fit up and stuff like that. So it's going great. I don't know when Bob plans to have it fully accessible. Probably not for a while. There's no need to because there's not a whole lot of people coming through. But I would say it's in great shape. And as soon as we can, as soon as things change, it'll be ready to roll. So it's exciting.
Okay. Well, good. All right. The manager's report.
There I am. Thanks, Helen. A number of things. Just a reminder, tomorrow night at 6 p.m., you join with the school board in your city, in your steering committee meeting. That should go till a little bit after 7. We will share our budget with them and they with us, and there'll be a couple of other items on the agenda as well. On the vaccine side, I'm very pleased to let you know that 97% of our firefighters have gotten the first shot, and I think something north of 75% have gotten the second shot.
Wow.
And our police officers are starting to get them now as well. So as first responders, they were in line, and most all of our fire department now has both of them. Justin has gone to the Pizza Hut at your request, not to eat, but to check the Pizza Hut on, I should have said that differently, I suppose. On Shelburne Road to take a look at the condition of the building. Justin's been there twice. He reports that the building is extremely secure. It's locked up well, and nobody's getting into it. And so that pretty much eliminates any avenue the health department or the health officer might have to deal with the issues you raised at the last meeting. I think we're going to have to look maybe on the zoning side if we're going to get any relief there. But the current ordinances that we have in place, I'm not real optimistic that we have a good approach here, but I will report back to you when I get that information.
Remind us who owns it again?
I don't know. I'm not sure who it is.
What was your question, Tim?
Remind me who owns that Pizza Hut building?
Well, on one of the neighborhood watch, I think Mike Simino seemed to know who owned it, but I can't remember the gentleman's name. So I could look back on that, but I don't know offhand. But someone does, and I don't know if they're up to date on their taxes. I assume they are.
Yeah, I think they are.
Or we'd hear about
I
it.
would know that then, yeah.
Or you would know it, yeah.
I've been working with the other managers. We meet every other week, and the group of managers, along with Charlie Baker, have agreed to host a meeting late in March. It's a leadership summit on sharing services. It's an effort to go the next step toward potential consolidation of services among communities to save money and save the impact on the taxpayers. You'll hear more about that shortly. We have found out, and there's been some disagreement about Champlain Water District will have one of their ballots in front of our voters through the mail with us for the March 2nd annual meeting. This is a ballot that should general obligation bonds of Champlain Water District in an amount not to exceed $1,090,607 representing the balance of previously authorized bond indebtedness be issued for purpose of funding the acquisition of various capital assets through the district capital reserve fund. So they need to get this passed by the member communities. The question came up how seemingly every community has to do it the same way. Some communities, however, are going to be having different procedures this year for voting. So this is an ongoing discussion back and forth between Donna, CWD, and the Secretary of State's office, but you may well see another CWD on ballot item going out to our voters.
And this is the payment of this is all collected through the rates, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it's not
Does not affect the taxpayer.
well,
You're saying it would be a
taxpayer pays
second
the
mailing?
rates, but
It affects the ratepayers.
yeah.
What's that, Megan?
I thought when they came in previous, like a month ago or whatever, that they said that they would have a ballot item, but it wouldn't incur any cost in the rate. It wouldn't be a rate change because of that item. They have a rate change anyway, but that was a bonded. They had money for the bond already, but they have to
Correct.
put it to a vote, right?
Right.
Yep.
Megan?
It's going to be a second mailing?
No,
It's gonna be mailed separately?
it would appear it would be going out in our now consolidated mailing. It wouldn't be a second mailing, which would be more confusing, I think. Anyway, the issue here is the disagreement between the Secretary of State's office and CWD and the law and so on. So hopefully that'll get worked out shortly. I will be appearing before the Development Review Board tomorrow night at 7 o'clock to talk about the Garden Street TIF vote that you just approved. So I'll be leaving the steering committee a few minutes early probably to do that. And I'm on with the Planning Commission, I think, next week, and we're going to all the committees. I think one of you had suggested that we get out to the committees on this, so that's starting to happen. And lastly, in December, we had a presentation for you on transportation impact fees. Paul's looking for a little guidance back from the council as to how you would like us to proceed to move that process along. Not something you have to decide tonight, but I think we need to have some guidance perhaps on the next agenda, a discussion about what you want to do, whether or not the fee is where you think it needs to be, whether or not you agree with the mathematics and science behind it, et cetera. So probably have something like that on the next agenda for you to discuss. Again, it's the transportation impact fees.
We had a presentation on that, correct?
Yeah. And so I think what we're looking for now is kind of a, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways about whether or not to take the next steps.
Okay.
And we can do that at the next meeting. So anyway, that's all I got, Helen.
Okay, well, thank you. So let's move on to item 7, the annual report from the pension fund manager. And I guess this is Tim Barrett's speaker guest, Pat Blizzard. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you had a great holiday. I think we're all ready to move on to 2021 and hope for better things this year. Would you like me to share the presentation?
Yeah, Pat, I can make you a presenter if you'd like.
Okay, that would be great.
So we understand we're going to hear some good news and some bad news.
Yes.
You're now the presenter, Pat.
Okay. Now, I guess I have to share my screen here somehow.
Yeah, there's a button down at the bottom that says screen.
Can you see my desktop right now or no?
Yeah, but what's up is your connection to GoToMeeting.
Right, okay.
There you go. Now you're up.
There we go. Let me put this in slideshow mode here to make it a little larger for everybody. Okay, how's that?
Perfect.
That's better. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, well, let's just start out talking a little bit about last year. Obviously, we had a lot of volatility. We had the pandemic begin, and it's still going on today. We had the elections. We had the Georgia Senate state runoff. There's a lot of things that went on, a lot of uncertainty, but the markets did pretty well. I mean, they kind of were at their worst in mid-April, and they bounced back pretty significantly thereafter. And we can see that in some of the returns, and we'll get into some of the returns a little bit later in more detail. But overall, what we're seeing is we thought last year that if we had gridlock in the Senate, that would be a better thing for the market because, frankly, companies in the markets like gridlock because things don't change that quickly. And there's a lot of regulations out there that have been removed from some of these companies, specifically tech companies. But what actually happened was the market responded very favorably to that. And the reason being is because they believe that there's going to be more stimulus now as a result of a Democratic-led Senate. Again, it's 50-50 with Kamala Harris as the tiebreaker. So there could be more stimulus coming through. There's a number out there about 1.9 million trillion additional dollars, and I'm sorry, 1.9 billion additional dollar, 1.9 trillion. And a lot of that will be focused in on the vaccine front, which is much needed. Because right now, if you think about the vaccines, while some of the numbers you stated earlier about the firefighters and things of that nature were very good, I mean, nationwide, things were moving a lot slower than everyone anticipated. So the markets are looking for change there as well. So overall, all in all, markets are high right now. They're close to record highs across the board. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. On the right-hand side, you can see the major market indices. And we had a very good one-year period and a good fourth quarter. So for the calendar year, you can see all equity asset classes were up considerably. US large caps, small caps, international, emerging market equities. US large caps led the way. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Why? Small caps bounced back nicely in the fourth quarter. That's something we've been waiting for. A lot of that has to do with a lot of vaccine news that's out there. A lot of these small cap companies have been deeply impacted by COVID-19. On the fixed income side, pretty incredibly, US investment grade bonds had a very strong year, close to 10%. The longer duration bonds you had, the more further out in the yield curve, longer maturities, the better you did in the fixed income front. And then asset classes like high yield bonds, emerging market debt, added value. The only negative asset class on this chart was commodities. And if you remember about 6 months ago, we had negative oil prices at one point in time. So that a lot of that is still built into that price on a one-year basis. But we did see that bounce back nicely, where oil, unfortunately, it's back up to about $53 a barrel. We're starting to see that at the gas pump as well. So I mentioned I wanted to talk about large cap stocks because this has really been what's driving the markets. And there are more names in this, but I wanted to focus on the names on the top part of the page here. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Facebook. As you just look at the returns for those companies for last year, they had a 55.8% return, just those stocks. So now let's take a step back and remove those stocks from the S&P 500. So we're only looking at 495 companies in the S&P 500. You can see the light gray bar on the bottom. That was only up 10.8%. Overall, the S&P 500 was up 18.4%. So we're seeing a handful of names that really drove the markets. And I stated earlier, there's other stay-at-home names that did very well. Your Zooms, your Pelotons, and all those companies did very well. When I looked at this chart back in September of last year, the 495 names in the S&P 500 were actually negative. They were negative 2.5%. So they have come back very strongly in just about 2 months. So what we're seeing is we're beginning to see a rotation away from the high-flying tech stocks into some of these more value-oriented stocks that have really not participated at all in this rally. So looking at this, you can see this in another way here. So we're looking at the US equity market review here, bottom left-hand chart. You could see for the 1 year, growth outperformed value significantly. It's because of those tech names. That's exactly why it did that. But in the fourth quarter, you could see value for the first time in a long time actually had a win against growth. So that's where we've kind of been focused in your international portfolios. We'll talk more about that, but we have been waiting for that trade to turn over, and we're starting to see that now. International markets, we like international. International is also more of a kind of a value play that's lagged the US equity markets. It's lagged US equity for a while. There are some bright spots out there, like Asia, even Europe picked up a little bit in the fourth quarter. Pacific ex-Japan did very well. And we saw a bounce back in emerging market equity as well. Now, some of that can be attributed to the dollar declining somewhat. And that has propped up the emerging market equities areas of the market. That not only helps you with an emerging market equity, but also emerging market debt. So as the US dollar declines, usually you have higher returns in those areas. But all in all, it's great to have an allocation international. You have a sizable allocation international. We think you're in the right place right now, and that's going to benefit this portfolio going forward. And it really was one of the best reasons, one of the biggest reasons why the portfolio outperformed its index for your fiscal year to date thus far. And then finally, fixed income. A lot of people have been asking me, we're going to be in a lower rate environment for longer. It's going to be more difficult to get returns out of fixed income. And both of those are probably a yes. We will be range bound on the fixed income rates for a while. But what we have seen is when you look at the left chart on the left-hand side, 12/31/2019, we had a slight inversion of the yield curve. And you can see that there. It was very slight at that point in time. That has gone away, but rates have come way, way down. So the shorter you are on the yield curve, the lower the rate, obviously. But the curve is also steepened. So the further out you are, such as 20 and 30-year bonds, you're getting a higher yield out there. So we do believe we'll be range bound. We're starting to see inflation tick back into the system a little bit. That hasn't been said for a long, long time. So right now, I think we're like 2.1% inflation. The expectations are over the next several years for 2.5% to 3%. So that moving up over time. And how do we combat against that? We do that by investing in Treasury inflation protection securities and other types of investments in order to offset any kind of inflation in the portfolio. Any questions about the market review, the economy? Okay, so let's get into the numbers. So on a fiscal year-to-date basis, the plan is up 17.43% on a gross of fees basis, 17.05 net of fees. We have outpaced the index pretty considerably thus far in your fiscal year for all the reasons I talked about earlier. So we started out very well from a fiscal year-to-date standpoint, and hopefully, we still have some time to go. There could be some volatility that creeps in, but hopefully, we end with a pretty solid double-digit number there as we have today. I looked at the portfolio as of last Friday, and the plan was up to $42.5 million. So it was a little bit lower than what we have in the portfolio note at the bottom of the page, because we had a couple of down days last week, but today's market was up pretty considerably as well. So I'm guessing you're probably up another 1.3 to 1.5% on a January to date basis.
I'm waiting for the bad news. So this looks good news, but you said there's good news and bad news?
Well, the only bad news I really stated was the vaccine really has started out a lot slower than we anticipated. So that really needs to prop up, really to give some security to the markets and to some corporations to start spending again. So really, that's the only bad news now. If we get that ramped up, people start to get immunization to this COVID-19, then we could see a pretty good year this year. Any questions? That's all I had.
Okay, Tom has a question.
I hate to be a negative Nelly, but you say you're predicting an increase in inflation, 2.5, 3%. What's your worst case scenario? If that were to skyrocket to 5, 6%, do you have some extreme hedging on any really terrible inflation outlooks?
In the portfolio today, we don't. We're not too concerned. The numbers I just gave you, they're out like on a 5-year basis. We don't see a lot of inflation in the next couple of years, but we are keeping our eye on that. So, we would enter into asset classes that would potentially help hedge against that. Areas like a multi-asset real return, we might re-enter. We took that position away about a year ago, only because we didn't see inflation. We could enter into an individual TIPS portfolio, Treasury inflation protection securities. And then also within your fixed income you already have today, you already have a weighting to TIPS, so you're somewhat hedged there. You don't have like a 40, 50% hedge against inflation right now. It's just not, the threat of it isn't as big as we thought it would be so far, so.
Okay, David, did you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah, I just have, I think a comment. I think it looks real good. The only thing we have to be aware of is that it probably doesn't look a lot different, I wouldn't imagine, than other well-managed portfolios in the last year. The markets having been very surprising. I think we have to always be aware, not to be complacent, that one major event can screw the whole thing up. And, the first week of March, everybody felt great. By the second week of March, the country was closed down. And so we can't control what goes on out there. So as long as we watch it closely, but my point is, there's a lot of it we can't control. I think it looks great for what we've been able to manage. And we've kind of just, through good management, ridden the tide of what the market has done, which is just fine. But I think it's anybody's guess as to what next year is going to look like. That's just my opinion, for what it's worth or not.
Thank you. Tim?
So, yeah, Pat gave us a good story, and we're lucky that the market has bounced back as nicely as it has, not counting fixed income and the core property components of the portfolio, which could turn around when the pandemic starts to relax its grip, on people working and people going out to shop and go to restaurants and whatnot. But so the good news is that, I think we've gained back in some more where like, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, we were looking at a much lower portfolio value. The bad news is, and Erik will probably talk about this, it's not so much bad news as that, we have to look at our expected rate of return again. And if we have to reduce that again, that means we have to contribute more to the pension. And you're going to see the numbers later on about how well funded our pension is compared to VEMR's and VESTR's, and that the state, administers. And you'll see that there are some disparities, and we look pretty good, even compared to some other cities and towns. But nonetheless, if you'll see that there are going to be some recommendations made that could end up costing a little bit extra money or contribution or some long-term strategy. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Anyone in the public want to say anything? Spencer? No? All right, well, thank you very much, Pat. And will we get a copy of this? Will this get posted somewhere or sent to us? Maybe that's a question for Kevin.
It wasn't in our packets.
It did go into your box, or it should have gone into your box.
Oh,
For the
there.
weekend.
oh, sometimes I don't. Okay, sorry. Thank you. All righty. Well, thank you very much, Pat.
Thank you.
Stay
We hope we
safe.
can
Be
visit
well.
sometimes, Pat, in the future.
Yeah, I hope we can get back up there and see each other in person again very soon.
Head of the Wood is open again.
That's great.
Okay, number.
You have your meetings there, Tim?
No.
Okay, just curious.
He
No, they
has some
actually
favorite
have
restaurants downtown, that's
At
all.
Pizza Hut, because it's really quiet and safe.
Colorful, too.
Yes. Moving on to item 8, the annual valuation report on pension fund status, and we have Erik Schait. Is that how you pronounce it? Schait?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's exactly
welcome,
right.
Erik.
Thanks for having me. Can I share my screen?
It should be said, Erik.
How's that?
That looks good.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the liability side of the pension plan. I'll go through some of the basics on how we come up with the recommended contribution and the funded status of the plan. Do keep in mind, like Tim said, we do this as a snapshot every July 1st. So when we look at these numbers, they're based on 6/30 assets. And if you look at numbers today, they look very different. And I'll give you just a summary of the difference between the two when we're looking at it. So just real quick to start out, when we put liabilities in the pension plan, we have to allocate them to the past and to the future. And that's where funding methods come in. There's many different ways of doing this. They all, at the end of the day, result in the same liability. It's just what time period you put the liabilities to. For this plan, we look at two different methods, and we look at both each year just to get a broader idea of how things are going. The first is the unit credit, or the present value of accrued benefits, which is just everything earned to date based on current compensation. If you paid everyone out and walked away, that's what you're looking at as your current liability. And then entry age normal, which takes a more future-looking approach and tries to even out your liability over time, looking more towards the end goal of when everyone's retired in the future. So it has a little bit more weighted towards the present and a little higher liability now, but it would have less future liability. And this entry age method is the method that you have to use for GASB and financial reporting in your financials. So just graphically, top line is the entry age method, bottom line is the unit credit. And as your plan gets more mature, they'll slowly come together. But right now, the entry age liability is higher than the unit credit liability. If I talk about liability, it's benefits earned in the past and normal cost or items expected to be used in the current year. Then just skipping forward to the 2020 recommended plan contribution. So what we do currently each year as a funding policy is first, we take your unfunded liability, the difference between your assets and your accrued liability for the past, and make an amortization payment on that to pay it down over a 20-year period. And then we add costs expected to be accrued in the current year and just interest from the 7/1 to the date the contribution is expected to be paid. And then the employees are also contributing a small portion on their own. And so when we look at the actual recommended contribution, when we do this, we have a smooth asset value that we use, and this just helps from year to year to prevent wide swings in the recommended contribution. And I mean, as you can see here, the contribution based on the 20-year amortization for this year is about 1.313 million compared to 1.302 last year. So it's very similar, and that's partially because these smooth assets, try and smooth out gains and losses. But overall, the contribution is very similar to the prior year. And here is the contribution just graphically. You see that almost half of your recommended portion of the payment is a payment towards the unfunded liability from the past. And so theoretically, if the plan was 100% funded, you would only have this normal cost and interest here, and it would be about $700,000 for the city portion. So we had talked about last year in the past a alternative funding method, which has not been officially recommended yet, but it's in the works, hopefully. But what this method would do is, because the plan's closed to new employees, because everyone in this plan will eventually retire, it would be a good time to adopt a strategy to have the plan be fully funded at the time when there's no more active employees. So instead of that 20-year amortization period, this amortization period would basically say, get shorter each year with the ultimate goal of that in 2039, it would be fully amortized. And for the first year, the difference in the recommended contribution is minor. It's about 15,000 more under this method, and it has been incorporated into the budget. So even though this hasn't been officially adopted or recommended yet by the council or the committee, it can retroactively be put in place without missing any past contributions. So based on the smooth value of assets and the present value of accrued benefits, the current liability, the plan was 101% funded on 7/1/2020. And that is very slightly down from 101.77 last year. And on the entry age liability, it was 85.5% compared to 80, just slightly higher last year. So then market value had a little bit more of a swing because it's not the smooth assets. And the present value of accrued benefits was down to about 97%. And the entry age normal liability, 82%. And we'll see some comparisons to what happened to everyone else. But I do want to say, as of today, basically, if you were to change the snapshot with the current assets and with liabilities forward a little, you'd be 90% funded on a market basis. So it's really, that 630 dip was probably, I think, like the lowest point of assets during the year. And since they're much higher now, the funded status is up around 90% on the entry age method. And on the 7/1/6/30 fiscal year, the primary reason that there was a little decline is the asset return being less than the assumed rate. And here is a graph of the funded status over the last 11 years. And I mean, on the present value of accrued benefits, the funded status has been very steady. And similarly with the entry age method, there's been not much change from year to year. And that's a little deceiving because at the same time as these years where it hasn't changed much, we lowered the long-term rate of return and we changed the mortality assumption, which would both add liability. So really, it's not that there was no progress, it was that it was offset by other changes. And just to compare to some other funded ratios, the average plan on 630 was 70.7%, which is down from 73% last year, which was almost a 3% decline, according to a Milliman 2020 public funding report.
This is my favorite slide every year during your presentation, Erik, because it just makes me feel so good as a South Burlington City Councilor and taxpayer. And I think all of this community should be proud of how we compare to our peers. So I just want to highlight how this slide really shows how reasonable, responsible, and how great a job Tom and Kevin and the council have done over the past 10 years or so. So bravo.
Yeah, I mean, definitely well funded in the public plan sector. I mean, look at Feaster's 50%. I don't know how they can operate like that, but anyway, yeah, Beamer's is at 74, Burlington was around 70, and St. Albans around 62%. And briefly, not to bog you down with any of this, but when we do the liabilities, there's assumptions that go into it. We periodically review them, we look at them each year. Different items like life expectancies, rate of return on the assets, employee turnover. We will probably be looking at them a little more in depth coming up and between now and 7/1/2021. But for this valuation, there were no changes from the prior year. So all the assumptions are the same using the most up-to-date mortality table, turnover, which is a graded table. The older you are, the less likely you are to leave for turnover reasons other than death, disability, or retirement. So someone just decides to go take a job somewhere else. The long-term rate of return was unchanged at 7.25%. And just as a side note, that same public funding study, the average rate for public plans was 7.2% as of 6/30/2020. We have the assumed age that people will retire and future compensation increases. All of that is the same as the prior year. Just to give you a flavor of how much your long-term rate of return matters. The entry age normal liabilities were currently about 44.6 million. If you decrease them, the long-term rate of return from 7.25 to 6.25%, so 1% lower, you'd add about 6 million in liability. And that's just the sensitivity of it. It's the most impactful assumption.
May I, Chair Riley?
Yep.
Just to
Oh, yes.
refresh,
I'm
just to
sorry,
refresh
Tom,
our
go
memory.
ahead.
Just to refresh our memory, we lowered that from 7.5 to 7.25, what, 2 years ago? Partly out of due diligence and being cautious and making sure our pension is well funded.
Yep, 2 to 3 years ago, you lowered it from 7.5 to 7.25. And just in general, a lot of capital market assumptions have been declining over the past few years, and that was part of the reason for it. You're very close to the median right now, so there's no real need to decrease it. But if we can, with large market performances going into this year, or in the next couple of years, get it down further in a way that makes sense, it would be prudent to do so, just to keep ourselves ahead of the curve in that respect.
Not down to 6.25 like you just said, but maybe down to 7.
No, right, down to 7 would be, the next step.
Okay, thank you.
And we talked about the smooth asset value. So this line is the smooth value. It just helps with budgeting and, and preventing any large swings from year to year compared to the market value. And you can see how, sometimes it gets a little further away, but it will come back. And if you looked at it right now, they would be much closer together after the third and fourth quarter performances. It's a summary of the returns over the past couple of years, which are nowhere near as in depth as you just saw. But on a fiscal year basis, just a roughly calculated return was about 2.86% compared to the assumed 7.25. And yeah, so it was 4 years ago, we lowered it from 7.5 to 7.25.
Are you thinking next
And the
year?
plan-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The possible lowering to 7.0, would that be likely to come before us a year from now, or are you still just on the back burner?
I think there's a decent chance it'll come to you for a 7/1/21 valuation, but not a guaranteed chance. This is the breakdown of the participants in the plan. Because it's frozen, the active count at the top is decreasing, and it will continue to decrease over time as participants move from active and earning benefits to retired and receiving monthly payments. And the group in the middle are participants who have a benefit. They aren't earning anything new because they don't work there anymore, but they haven't started taking a pension payment. And then just some other brief participant statistics. The average service for non-public is about 16 years, and a public safety employee in the plan, these are just participants in the plan, is about 13 years. And something to look at is that the average future service of the remaining participants is about 8 years in non-public safety and 9 years in public safety. So that's what we expect. Some people are going to be longer and some are going to be shorter, but if you average them all together, the future working period of the remaining employees.
Can I jump in here? The average retiree age is nearly 75 for the non-public safety.
Yeah.
Good heavens.
Was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would expect it to start getting higher as well as a larger portion of the group ages into that.
Oh, so it's not the age
Well, that's
of
of the
retirement.
retirees, yeah.
Okay.
Retirees, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just reading it as you were, Megan, like
Yeah,
average
okay.
age of our workers is 75
It's
years
not
old.
retirement age, it's retiree age.
Right, exactly.
The average active employee age is about 57 of this group.
That makes much more sense.
And that's all I have unless there's questions.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah.
How about from the public?
Oh, go ahead, public.
No, I don't see anyone. Tim, did you have a question?
Yeah, it was kind of for Tom Hubbard. What's the status on our $8 million loan and how many years out are we? And it's still over a 5% rate, isn't it?
Correct. I think we're in our 10th year, Tim, so we got 10 years to go on that. And that's about 660,000 a year that we're paying on. So
Still no
another 10
possibility of
years on that.
refinancing?
Pardon me?
Still no possibility of refinancing that?
Something that we continue to look at. It's balancing that with the penalty that we would pay for an earlier payoff. So there's a couple different factors that we have to look at, but we will continue.
Is the penalty in action the full 20 years of the loan?
I'm sorry?
Is there a penalty for the full 20 years for repayment?
The highest penalty is for the first set of years, which was the first 7 years.
Okay.
We're kind of in the middle of things right now where it's a moderate penalty.
Yeah.
And as you get closer towards 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, it becomes less and less each year.
Yeah.
But we can work that up and show you what that looks like, and maybe even have that for the next committee meeting with the PAC group too.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Yeah. It'd be nice to see what those curves are like and whether we should be thinking about doing that and looking at what interest rates are going to be like and what our options are for refinancing it in the first place.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much, Erik.
Is he going to show
Thank
us
you
a
for having me.
snapshot from today? And is that something you said at the beginning, Erik, that you would show us a snapshot from today so we could compare, or?
Oh, sorry. I was just, if you use today's market value of assets, it would be 90%. I don't have an actual snapshot of it.
I'll take that snapshot. Thank you.
Okay. Great. All right. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to item 9, which is consider and possibly approve the warning of warning the 2021 annual city meeting ballot to include articles on the election of city officers and city councilors, the FY22 city budget, and the authorization to incur debt for the tax incremental financing eligible Garden Street project. So Andrew, hi there.
Good evening. Good to see everyone. In front of you is the warning, as you mentioned, Councilor Relay, for the 2021 annual meeting. This was prepared based on prior models, so it's consistent with what we've done in the past for the most part, and also with Donna, Kevin, Tom, and I also chatted with the school district on their language just so that we're consistent. The most significant difference being the warning a little bit below Article 3 there, related to the Zoom meeting, that the pre-town meeting will be rather than the typical in-person. But other than that, it is consistent with past ballots for your consideration.
Okay, thank you.
I'll
And
move
then,
to approve. Oh, sorry.
okay, no, go ahead. No, that's,
I
I was
was just
gonna
going to
ask for a
move to
motion.
approve. Yeah, I'm going to move to approve the ballot.
Is there a second?
Second.
And Tim Barrett seconds. Is there any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the
Quick
roll.
discussion.
Yes,
Um,
sorry.
Do we have any idea yet whether we're going to be mailing ballots to everybody? we haven't had a BCA meeting, but has Donna has she given any indication of what might happen and what the school district wants?
I thought she sent us a note that said the school board said if there's funding from the COVID stuff that we send one out. And I think she indicated that the legislature was planning to appropriate that money. Maybe Tom has a newer update on what they've actually done.
Yes, I believe there's $2 million from the CRF funding to support this. And the estimate is that statewide, if everybody mails a ballot, it's going to be up to like 1.5 million. So I think the money's there. And my impression is similar to Helen's, that she was waiting for the governor to sign the bill today, HR 48, which allowed all the municipalities to do the mail out ballots. So I would expect to hear from Donna tomorrow, and that's probably why our BCA meeting is next week. But I know the governor signed the bill this morning.
So I think we will be mailing that
thank you.
out. But I think Donna was still going to, well, I don't know if she was going to try to find out if the charge for the return was only paid if the envelope was actually mailed. I don't know though. I know she was trying to work that through with it's how you print it, I think. You get, those. So I don't know about that, but it isn't it is our money because it comes from somewhere, doesn't it? But it's not from our budget this year. Okay. So are we ready for that vote? Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, I'll call the roll. Tim Barrett?
Aye.
David Coffin?
Hi.
Thomas Chittenden?
Aye.
And Megan Emery?
Aye.
And the chair votes yes, so we have approved this warning, 5-0. So let's see.
You can't vote.
For me?
Andrew just tried to vote. I saw it. Put his thumb up.
Thank you all.
Just
You're
kidding.
welcome. Thank
Just
you.
kidding.
So number 10 are reports from counselors on committee assignments. So Tim, your committee kind of
Hey, we
was already
presented.
presented. Yep. Okay. I had a airport commission meeting. And it's a very interesting time. Emplainments were down 83%. And it was kind of interesting because Jean made the comment that we are the lowest in the nation with emplainments. But we're also the lowest in the nation for COVID infection. And two likely have a connection. So it's good news because people are following the governor's advice or the health department's advice. And either they're not coming here because we have too many requirements or nothing, or not enough stuff is open, or, we as the public are really following those rules. And as a result, our businesses may be hemorrhaging, but people aren't dying at the same rapidity as other states. So, the airport still, we haven't lost any airlines. They continue to be interested in flying, certainly all the smaller routes and smaller planes. I guess one upside is there's been a lot more of the not commercial, but well, I guess it is commercial, like the UPS flights out because so many more people are mailing stuff, either coming in or going out. So that has helped stem some of the money. But we're running at a deficit and we have, PPL money, and that's making the difference. We've completed the return payments of all the money that's owed the FAA for the Kirby cottages. So that's done. And I think as Megan noted 2 weeks ago. They're working on the HVAC for the Chamberlain School. And we continue to get funding for different projects at the airport, which is, I guess, an indication that the FAA thinks it's a well-run and important airport, and they continue to fund the improvements to make it so. We're putting in a grant, and I think have received the funding to redo the, what do you call it when you go, the TSA? So it's one place, and we'll streamline it and be potentially better.
Ellen,
Yes,
how did they fund the Kirby Lane cottage refund? I mean, they sold them, right?
we sold them, yes, to Beta Technologies, and
Was that enough?
well, I didn't think it was, but they said it's all been paid off, so
Okay.
they paid it. I didn't ask exactly which pocket it came out of, because the pockets are pretty slim right now, but I will follow up and find out.
But just because I heard
That
there
was
was
my
there was
understanding, that is completed, which is good. We didn't have to pitch in anything.
well, this is good because the Kirby Lane cottages didn't get torn down. So give everybody a
didn't.
clap on that.
Right. And it's just another reflection of, that the business bought them because that's what they want for their employees, or nice little single-family homes. They don't necessarily gravitate toward apartment complexes, which is what we seem to be building that are, in the affordable lane. So, and I did have a meeting for Town TV, formerly Channel 17, and we're doing okay too with, things very much changed. We're looking for a little more money to try to fund we'll be all set in South Burlington, I believe, when we move into the new auditorium, because that will be wired for all of this kind of feeds for so we can be online, we can be there and present, and people can be watching on the channel. But in the interim, they are looking for money from Comcast to fund. It's about $7,500 to buy this camera that you can set up that's remotely and allows all the communities to continue this Zoom option for our public meetings when we get together in person. So I think that's a good effort.
I think it will be really interesting to see how people's behavior will change due to this year-long experience.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, like more people might just stay at home and Zoom in.
Yeah.
Probably on crummy weather nights, And I
In-person
suppose
meeting,
we would never have to cancel a meeting due to weather. We could just Zoom it and stay in our home.
I think in-person meetings will be considered luxurious.
Oh, won't they be nice?
We're going to be wearing masks for a while still yet.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Well, we can have funny masks. And
Let's hope we're
Barb,
done
did you
by Halloween.
want to say something? Did anyone else go to a meeting? Okay, Barb?
I just wanted to pop in and say it's really nice to be able to, for those of us that used to watch on CCTV, to be able to actually interact with you on occasion. And it also was a really good idea when you told us to shut off our cameras, so we just focus on you, except when we want to talk. But I think it's a much, it has the potential to really open up and maybe have more people participate because we can talk.
Right. It'll be, a little more challenging to chair that, to see, a big screen with all the public. and then the audience, and then, the 5 counselors, but it's not impossible.
I have great faith in you, Helen.
Thanks.
And the chair, knows that she has a bench to call on if, other people can keep track of screen
Right.
while you keep track of.
Right. And we did that early on, and it was very helpful. Yeah. Okay. And it's nice when people call in, if they're able to put their name, so we know, like, who is behind that little black circle with their initials.
And the Zoom bombing was interesting at times.
Right. But that didn't happen very much, so we were lucky. Yeah.
Somebody wanted to play Warcraft. They just really wanted to play Warcraft.
I know.
Maybe tomorrow night they'll call in and want to play Warcraft again.
I know.
I think it was
Yeah.
Minecraft. There's a difference.
Minecraft. Okay.
Oh, God.
I
Okay.
think we got a ways to go before we're going to be in person. But
Pardon me?
I think we have a ways to go before we're going to be in person.
Yeah, I would agree. So it won't happen probably before we're in our new digs anyway.
No, probably not. When is that? When are we supposed to be able to do that?
We think July 15th, right? Kevin, that's
Is that
the,
what it is?
yeah, he'll have to come back for a day. He could
He
be
will.
a city manager for a day. Now,
Yeah, I think so.
It had drifted back to about the July 15th, but now they've been making up some time. So it's kind of moving
cool.
back toward July 1, June 30th, something like that. So it's right around that area. We just extended the contract for the storage facility that we have for the library for 6 months. So that coincides with when our library lease runs out too. So we're hoping to be in over there before that lease expires.
Are the
which
panels going
reminds
up yet?
me, can
I'm
we
sorry.
have a walkthrough?
Sure. Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
it is so cool to see the wall up and a lot of I think I talked about it at the last meeting. I'd been on a tour of the library part with a potential donor, and it was just fabulous. And
Yeah,
it was
we'll-
just, the sheetrock was up and there some of the paint colors, and you could just imagine how gorgeous it's going to be. So I thought it would be fun for us to see it a little bit more in the works. If people are interested, we could, and it can be any time of day, actually. Doesn't
Soon as I
have to
get
be
2
after
shots.
the workers. Pardon me?
As soon as I get 2 shots.
Yeah, they have pictures too. Maybe they could send out some pictures. My husband got to see some for the art committee. Maybe they could send us some pictures.
We will look and try to schedule something. I'll get something out soon to you all. I know you all, a couple of you have difficulty, well, several of you have difficulty going during the middle of the day. On a weekday, we might try to schedule something on a weekend when it's quiet there. So we'll work on that. It's time to get you guys back over there. It's been a couple months, I think.
Are the solar panels up yet or going up soon?
I think they're up.
Oh, I didn't go by it today. Oh,
They're hard to see. You can't, it's hard to see them you can't see them from the road, but they're up.
oh, you can't? They're not on those little things that hang out?
No, those are those are more of a
things?
shade.
Uh-huh.
Those are designed to be a shade. Those aren't designed to be for panels.
Oh, okay.
But my understanding is the panels are up. So,
Oh, cool.
And covered with snow.
And covered with snow. They still work through snow.
It is all good.
Okay. All right. Is there any other business to come before the council?
Wow, 8:15, amazing.
I know. This is good. Okay. Well, I would entertain then a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And seconded, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Thanks. Well, stay safe. You all get to get
Nice
in
seeing you
line
all.
for.
see you tomorrow night at 6. Tomorrow night at
that's
6.
right.
Right, tomorrow night at 6.
Right. This means vaccine. 2
Oh,
shots.
yeah. 2 shots.
Very good.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Night, gang.
Good
Night.
night.